Hi, Darren from Ray's Guitars, the Guitar Geek Out. My guest today, I'm blown away by who I've got. For any of you who are fans of the Canadian rock band Rush, I've got Steve Brown, the guitarist, the manager of Moving Pictures. What an honour to have such a legend on the Guitar Geek Out. Steve Brown. Okay, so welcome to the Raised Guitars podcast, and really excited that this time around we've got the amazing Steve Brown of Moving Pictures. Hello, Steve.
Hello, Darren. How you doing?
Really well. So I've got a load of questions for you, but let's just chat and have a ramble and see where we go. But predominantly, this is about guitars and guitar gear.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about Moving Pictures because you guys are amazing, guys and gal.
Thank you.
All right. So, first of all, what first drew you to the guitar? Right at the start.
Right at the start, my guitar origin story. I have a brother who's 10 years older than me. And when I was 8, he was 18. Is that right? Yeah, it must have been. I was definitely 8, so he must have been 18. I thought he was younger than that. He got himself a 12-string acoustic.
Okay.
And as an 8-year-old, I was like, holy shit, what is that? That is beautiful. That is wonderful. So maybe I was 7, because I remember it was for my 8th birthday, which was this time of year. My mum and dad got me a little nylon, maybe it must have been a half or a 3/4 scale nylon guitar from Woolies. You'll remember Woolworths?
Oh, yeah.
So that's amazing. So it was a Winfield little classical guitar. So that's what got me into it. And my mum and dad, my dad was musical. He played the accordion, the sort of Scottish music on the accordion. And there's an old, you don't see them much at all these days. It's a percussion instrument called the clappers. I mean, the best way to describe it is like Scottish castanets.
Okay.
There you go. So my dad used to get that out, when there was friends round and wee parties in the house. So there was always kind of music on the go in the house. And I was around about the age of 10, it would have been, I got into Elvis. And I started buying, my brother was buying records, I was buying records. But yeah, it all started off with my brother's 12-string when I was 7 years old.
Excellent. Okay. So you've said Elvis. Who else were your early influences?
Well, those were just as a music fan, not necessarily as a guitarist. And that probably came from my mum. And I think the first single that my brother bought for me was Jimmy Osmond, Long-Haired Lover from Liverpool. Good grief, man! I didn't know I was going to be dragging this up on this podcast. Yeah, maybe I should vet this before it goes out. But the very first single I remember buying was Elvis Way Down, which I believe was November 77, because he died in August that year. And that single came out posthumously. My God, the shite you can remember, eh? So that was but then I've always been into music, into records. I'm still a big vinyl fan. I just love the magic of vinyl. I mean, I'm still amazed how beautiful noises can come from a slab of black plastic and a needle. So vinyls, I've just the beauty of vinyl and just music in general. So I went through, I think I can remember that time, 77 and onwards. It was punk. Commercial punk. Stranglers, Sex Pistols, all that sort of thing. Then the Jam, the Police, kind of mellowed out a bit. I remember buying an ELO album. I think it was Discovery. Around about that time, and I showed the cover to my brother, and he was more into like Paul Simon and ABBA and that sort of thing, which I love now as well. But he saw the cover to ELO, and he said, "That's heavy metal."
So I mean, that's
years back. But so I went through ELO, and then I eventually found sort of heavy metal, and moved on from there. And I was playing guitar all that time. But I remember having Bert Whedon playing a day. Do you remember him?
Yeah.
It was like the books, the chord books. Bert Whedon's playing a day, and just learning chords off my brother. I think the first thing I played was a G major turnaround. G, E minor, C, D7. That was it. I was off.
I mean, that's brilliant, actually. You're talking about Woolies and the vinyl. So, I mean, the only way you could access music before you actually bought it back then was to go to Woolworths or somewhere like that, put your headphones on.
True.
And try it out.
That's very true. It was a record player, and if you're, and then my mum and dad had a proper stereo, so that had the built-in cassette, so you could home taping is killing music. Remember all that? So you could borrow friends' albums and record them for yourself.
That's
and also maybe mid-80s, whatever, I got into the Tommy Vance, the Friday Night Rock Show. Yeah, yes. So that was a great source of new music. So yeah, right enough, you forget, you're so used to, dare I say it, Spotify and all that crap that goes on these days for your sources of new music. Back then, it was word of mouth. It was Top of the Pops. It was radio, is whatever, and friends. And I got into Rush through a school friend's big brothers are the influences here, So I went to a friend's house, and the big brother loaned me Back in Black, Led Zeppelin 4, Black Sabbath's Greatest Hits, the original one with the kind of graveyard scene thing on it, and 2112 and A Farewell to Kings. And that was my baptism of fire. So that was it. That was me. I'm into heavy music now.
That's almost identical to me. So when I was probably 11 or 12 years old, I had an older cousin, and at that age, I had a paper round. I couldn't afford albums, and he gave me 4 or 5, and he gave me the same Black Sabbath album.
Right.
He gave me AC/DC Back in Black, Highway to Hell, Van Halen 1, and Exit Stage Left by Rush.
Oh, another baptism of fire.
And that was my intro.
Wow. I kind of feel sorry for kids I don't really, because the kids these days have got parents like us to give them these things, and maybe do you still do vinyl?
No, I don't so much. My son Aidan, who he's
there you go then. So it's like now he's
mad about
coming
vinyl.
back to you with the vinyl. Brilliant. I love it. Top parenting still. That's top parenting. Yes, but we can still, recommend the good stuff to the kids. As dare I say it, as middle-aged people that can influence the kids.
Absolutely.
And however they buy it, that's how they're going to buy it. But it was just a case of going to Woolies, or there's a couple of really cool. In fact, Hemispheres is the first Rush album I bought from Grapevine Records in Friar Street in Stirling. I remember that. So there's a couple of independents in Stirling at that time as well. But no, magical time. Absolutely. Imagine hearing Hemispheres for the first time. I'm jealous of the kids these days, because a lot of them have still to do that. They've still to, saying your son Aidan and his girlfriend Jen.
Yeah.
I think they've been really supportive of our gigs in the South Coast, And I think I read something about Jen saying she just got into Rush kind of recently, so she's got a lot of music still to hear for the first time. It's amazing,
Yeah, and I think she's trying to play it on bass, and she's not been playing that long, so she likes to start things very, very difficult.
Yeah, I straight in the deep end there. I don't know what I started with. Oh, the G turnaround, that was me. It was a few years before I heard some Rush, and years down the line before I tried to attempt to play any of it. But yeah.
So that moves us on to then moving pictures. So again, you decide to create a Rush tribute band. So and how do you do that? You go out, you go for one of the hardest things to play, and you've got to find the other people that can play the rest of it. How did that work?
Well, so I was always playing guitar, and I think, so going back to how I started in bands, I was just playing, I think I'd moved on to a K Black Les Paul. Remember K's catalogue? And they had their own make of Les Pauls, and a black Les Paul made by K, going through a little, I don't know, 5-watt practice amp in the Kunselhuis in Stirling and Brayhead, the Kunsel scheme. And I was just playing away in my bedroom, and some guys were passing, and they heard the guitar, just other school kids that I didn't know. They knocked on the door, and they said, "You play guitar?" I went, "Aye." I said, "Right, you want to join the band?" I went, "Okay." So that was my first, and we played at the school disco, our one song, Space Invaders. Before we went on stage, the deputy director said, like, guys, what you called? We didn't have a name. So we looked around the dressing room and we saw a box of Kleenex. So we called ourselves 100 White Tissues. So that was my very first band. 100 White Tissues with our original song, Space Invaders. So, and then word got around the school, met up another couple of, kind of like-minded wannabe musicians, and we started a band in school, which became a punk band, Political Asylum, which ended up, I kept that going until I started uni. I went on to Edinburgh Uni, got a chemistry degree that I've done nothing with. But thanks to going to Edinburgh Uni and grant checks, remember back in the day, we used to get paid to go to uni, and I spent that on my 1964 Gibson SG. And and that did me through all my Political Asylum years. We toured Europe a couple of times, brought out a few indie albums. And then when I left uni, and I left Political Asylum at the same time with the purpose of starting a rock band, because my heart was more into rock as opposed to the punk stuff. Even though our punk stuff was renowned for being more melodic, a bit more tuneful, a bit more heavy, not as thrashy as some of the other anarcho-punk stuff that was going around in the early 80s. So then I formed a band called Seeing Red, which was just a regular rock band doing all original music with a female singer. And that lasted a few years, had a good few breaks. And then, so when did that finish? That finished in 93. But around about that time, I was also just gigging around the pubs as a duo, myself and a female singer, just playing covers. I was on acoustic guitar. By that point, I was using a Yamaha APX6. And actually, I took out like a drum machine, a sequencer, and a keyboard with the backing tracks on floppy disk. How bloody old are... Oh, anyway. So, you can only load up like 4 songs at a time. And that would MIDI the drums and the keyboards. They were getting played, in quotations, live. I would play acoustic guitar, do backing vocals, and the singer would sing. Around about 1993, I realised I could actually make a living doing that. There's only 2 of us in the band. We do 2 or 3 pub gigs a week. That pays the bills. So I went professional in July the 3rd, 1993, or July the 5th, 1993. And I've been a professional guitarist ever since. So I've just been mainly pubs, clubs, and then we got into the wedding circuit, which was, silly money. Okay, it's a long night, but you do get paid well for it. So I'm doing all of that, the wedding stuff and the pubs and clubs for 20 odd years. Meanwhile, a couple of good buddies in Edinburgh. By that point, I'd moved where I am now, up in the Highlands of Scotland, a little village called Arisaig. But friends back in Edinburgh had started a Rush tribute band. And just for fun, just doing for a hobby. They were called the Tobes of Hades, which is a brilliant name. Aye. For Rush fans that will know, that is the first line from Bytor and the Snow Dog. So it's a great name for a band. But when I joined them, because I realised then, I thought, well, guys, you're only doing 2-3 gigs a year. I can fit them in around my regular gigs. Let's do this. But then I managed the bands I'm in, so I got manager head on. I went, guys, maybe we should change the name to something a bit more Rush friendly, that would maybe attract the casual Rush fan. So I suggested we change the name to Moving Pictures. That was 2011. So getting back to your question, how did it all happen? Well, I'd already been gigging as a guitarist doing covers and some original stuff as well. Lifelong Rush fan. I got into Rush. My first gig was the Signals tour in Edinburgh, 1983, I think it was. So, we're talking like almost 30 years later is when I joined a Rush tribute band. So Lifeson was ingrained.
Yeah.
But then once you actually sit down and try to learn this stuff properly, it just blew my mind, still blows my mind. Because I've found out now, after having done it for over 10 years, you can go back and listen to a song again, and there's always something else in there that you can build on. There's little nuances, there's little parts that you're maybe not playing quite as right, and with Lifeson, which is another saving grace for me, those that look closely enough. He tends to kind of freeform a little bit now and again on the live stuff. So that gives me license to kind of embellish. So I'm not too harsh on myself if I don't get anything note perfect. But then again, I've rethought that, and I'm thinking, as a tribute guitarist, you really should get it right. You know, I don't have the artistic license as the original songwriter to muck about with things, you know. But anyway, it's kept me going for the last 10 years, and the gigs have just grown and grown because 2-3 years ago, the lineup, we've ended up with the lineup that we have now, and we're all able to gig full time doing moving pictures. So this has become my main band.
Yeah, and you have quite a schedule. I mean, last year and what you've got coming up for this year, it's a big tour.
Yeah, we've got 60 in the bag for this year so far, with another 2 or 3 weekends that we could put stuff in. But we're trying to work smart. We're working smart and hard. It is all hard work. Because not only are we doing the 3-hour shows, we're doing all the driving, the setting up, and the dismantling. This year we do have one crew member. Way! So we do have a paid hand to come along and be the drum tech as well. It's actually Jamie's partner, Robbie. Okay. He's a lovely guy. So we're managing to bring him on full time this year to help carry the load in more ways than one. So yeah.
And there's a couple of those dates. You do two in a day, so that's 2 3-hour sets.
Oh, I know. We've learned from that. We're doing. I think this year that's mainly going to happen in the Half Moon in Putney, which is a brilliant gig. We've done it often, and the Sunday doubles are just like iconic, you know. But we've learned our lesson this year when we do it. We've got the Saturday off. Because in previous years we've done like maybe a Friday, Saturday, then 2 on Sunday, and all the traveling in between. We are, hallucinating by the Sunday afternoon. We just don't know. I mean, we come up with different names for each other. It's like, wait a minute, guys, this is a bit surreal. So I think this year we're playing Tavistock on the Friday, Saturday off, and then the 2 on the Sunday in Putney, and back up the road. And like I mentioned, I live up in the Highlands, so every weekend, or most weekends, will start with a 7-hour journey for me to go down to Owen, who stays in the north of England. So yeah, it's a lot of traveling, but an absolute labour of love, and being the age John and I are, or John Owen, sorry, he goes by both names. We're at the stage now is like, do it while we still can. Just get out, get the head down, get the gigs in, because this ain't going to last forever. So let's just do it while we still can. Jamie, of course, brings the average age down by quite a lot. She's the youngest, and so she's great to have on board for many reasons.
But what an amazing drummer! I mean, she's so good. Right, so let's talk a little bit about your gear that you use in moving pictures. So your guitars and your amps and your effects. What are you using?
Okay, well, I went down the Lifeson route not long after joining the Tobes of Hades, which became Moving Pictures. I just thought, right, what's out there? That was around about the time, or just shortly after, Gibson made the white 355 Lifeson signature model. My wife and I were actually on holiday. 2009 that would have been. We went to Memphis, Nashville, and New York for a wee multi-trip holiday thing. And as we were walking up, what's the main street in Memphis? Is it Beale Street? Anyway, walking up that main street, and I looked up a side street and saw a massive Gibson logo. And I thought, what the hell is that? As it turned out, massive Gibson factory in Memphis. That's, at the time anyway, that's where they made all the semi-acoustics. So I think that was a Saturday. So I went back on the Sunday for a tour. The factory itself was shut, but they were still doing the tours, and the shop was open. And near the end of the tour, we passed a rack, a few guitars that were at the final stage. I think they were just getting the strings put on. And there was one of those white 355s with the Alex Lifeson truss rod cover. And I just had to ask the guys, like, oh, how much, where, when, you know? He said, oh man, they've sold out before they've finished making them. You know, I think they made 500 and they'd all been pre-sold, done. So that was 2009. So I reckon 2012, I think, once I was in the Rush Tribute band, I just went on eBay for a wee look, and one popped up. A young guy from Newcastle was selling it. It belonged to his dad. His dad bought one when it originally came out. His dad was a massive Rush fan. He'd taken the son to a few Rush shows across the pond as well as at home. Sadly, the dad passed away from cancer maybe about 6 months or a year beforehand. So he'd left the guitar to the son, who wasn't a player. So this was just kind of sitting in the cupboard. The son was getting married. So with his mum's blessing and all the rest of it, he decided to sell it. So I love secondhand guitars, and I love secondhand guitars with the stories. You know, if you know the history of them, it's just lovely. You know, so I just kept my eye on it on eBay, and it got, you know, it works. You keep an eye on it, and then maybe an hour beforehand, that's when you start bidding.
Yeah.
I had a wee bit of savings. I thought, so my top bid was 2112, of course. And I think I got it for 2064. So like, happy days. I was well chuffed. So I met him in a car park at McDonald's in Berwick-upon-Tweed, as you do, and took out the case. Had it right. That's perfect. There's the balance of the cash. Now buy me a coffee because I'm skint. So that's when the young lad and his girlfriend was there, his fiance. They told us a story, and a week or two later, we had a gig in Edinburgh. So I can't remember his name. I invited him, his girlfriend, and his mum and the auntie. They all came up to the gig, and I was playing that guitar, and you know, and we dedicated Spirit of Radio to the dad and that. So it was. I love that guitar origin story. So that comes out for, I'd say, 90% of the gigs. I don't take it abroad because it's actually part of my pension now. So you know I can't. And maybe not every gig at home. You know, if I've got a lot of travel in the back of the van, I bought an Epiphone 335, just a regular, beautiful Sunburst. I can't remember the actual model of it, but it's about 400 or 500 quid's worth of Epiphone semi-acoustic. Plays beautifully. It's got a trapezoid mother of pearl fret markers and a nice kind of tobacco sunburst finish. I'll play that instead of the 355 for gigs that are kind of far away from home.
Yeah.
But mainly comes out for the older material as well. But mainly guitars these days is a Lifeson Les Paul, one of the Gibson Access. I've got two of them. And you know yourself, even though you know the only thing different about them is the color, they play completely differently. You know, it's just like I prefer the Sunburst over the Crimson, but this year we're going out doing the R40 set, and I've just been watching the DVD, and Alex starts off that show playing the Anarchist using the Crimson Les Paul. So I'm thinking, right, maybe I'll take that one out this time. I used to use the piezo's on them, but I don't use them anymore because the saddles are individual, and 9 times out of 10, one's always dud. I've always had problems with those piezo saddles. So now I actually feed it through an AB box, split the signal, and one part of the signal goes to an acoustic simulator pedal.
Ah, okay.
A hot tone or hot one little acoustic simulator pedal. And I feed that into a John Petrucci stereo chorus, and then that gets fed out to the front of the house for the steel strung acoustic sounds. So getting back to the guitars, I've also got a PRS 24 35th or 30th anniversary edition, which is again Lifeson played PRS for a while, so it's still Rush relevant. But this one has coil tap switches for each of the humbuckers, so that's really cool for the single coil stuff, like Time Stand Still and Show Don't Tell and that sort of thing. And I think that's the main. Oh, and then for drop D songs like Driven and Between the Wheels, it's PRS again. For a while, I was using the Michael Arkerfelt, the Opeth signature guitar, which is a great machine for an SE model. But you know yourself, PRS SEs are amazing value for money. And then recently, I got a Tremonti SE, Again, I saw Alex playing one of those, so I thought, well, it's good enough for him. So they're my drop D guitars.
And you've got your double neck as well.
Oh, and the double neck, yes, which is a fake, I shall admit. It's I saw that on Gumtree, round about 2012, 2013. A guy in Carrickfergus was selling them. It's for 800 quid, and I thought, well, let's have a bash. Let's see what that's all about. So I paid a deposit. I got the ferry across. I met him at the ferry port, and it was in the back seat, no case, next to the new baby. Him and the wife were in the front, and he just needed money for the new baby. So again, took out the car, strummed both necks, checked it over. I thought, that plays fine. There you go. There's the balance of the cash. On the way home on the ferry, I checked the serial number, and it's just it had me going for a while. I thought, holy shit, this is an original 70s double neck. What the fuck, you know? It can't be. It's not. For that price, and I still say it's a fake. I'm not quite sure how you tell, but anyway, I've since had it signed by Terry Brown and Hugh Syme. So it is now priceless to me, and it completely does the job.
Excellent.
Of course, for Xanadu and Entre Nous. I play that in Entre Nous as well.
So what about amps? Are you mainly using front of house now, or have you got your favourite amps?
Well, when I started off with the Rush Tribute band, I went full pelt and got the Hughes and Kettner Triumph and switch. I was using two, using a Triumph and a Switchblade, running them in stereo, through a stereo cab. It wasn't kind of true stereo. But then, you know, as you get to our age, you know, the backs go and like, oh, what's it carrying? It's a two-man job to lift that amp in its flight case. It is stunning sound, but my God, that's hard work. So I went down the Kemper route. So, for the wedding band, I've always used, it was Line 6, the HD 500s. But then a few years ago, I changed that to the Boss GT 1000. So that's my main kind of function band, which I still do a few of those a year, the weddings and that. That's the main unit I use for that, straight into the PA. But for the Rush stuff, I do use Kemper. It took me a while to get into it. I bought one years ago, couldn't get into it, sold it. But then I just love the whole theory behind it. You know, YouTube's a bugger. I watch so many people in there, they're like, oh, come on. So I went for it again, and I dug in a bit deeper, and it is so worth it. The sky is the limit with that thing, and I just use 3 or 4 amps from a whole show. I base my high gain stuff on high watt hundreds, because that's what Life's been used in the Fairwater Kings tour. Different stages, disc 3, which was recorded on the Fairwater Kings tour. I love that tone he had, that high gain sound he had there. So that's a high watt 100. So that's what my high gain stuff is all based on. I'm just like guitar, using a Boss wireless system, going into a polytune, going into a drop pedal, because like Rush did for the last 10 or 15 years of touring, Geddy's voice couldn't quite hit the heights. So our Owen, who is, in my opinion, obviously I'm biased, the best Geddy, apart from Geddy, on the planet, and but he's similar vocal range. So when we do the really old tunes of the first 2 or 3 albums, we use a Digitech drop pedal, both of us, me and Owen, John, same guy. So it saves us having to change guitars and have other guitars all dropped. We'll just use our standard guitars, hit the Digitech drop, it drops everything a tone. The tracking is amazing on it. So, and then I get from there into the splitter. Like I said earlier, one half goes off to the acoustic simulator, the other half goes into the Kemper. And then the Kemper's just XLR stereo to the front of the house. But I also run a monitor lead out of that, and I carry a head rush wedge with me. So I've always got that wedge in front of me on stage, just for feedback and shit. You know, it's like you get some real feedback. We're all using in-ears, so I'm not actually hearing anything from it. But it's a great backup if the in-ears go down. You know, I could hear the live kit, and I can hear my guitar come at me from my head rush.
Brilliant.
Yeah, right.
And I agree with you. He is the best Geddy who's not Geddy on the planet.
Oh, nice one. I'll let him know.
You're all amazing. I came to the Worthing gig with Aidan, and spoke to several people around me, and we're like, if you close your eyes, you seriously can't tell the difference. You just
Oh man, that's
you sound like Rush.
Such a compliment. Thank you so much. I know. You said you came with Aidan. I mean, I feel so silly. Just when we were setting up this meeting, you're emailing him back for the yeah, and I kind of knew you from online stuff. And like I say, I know Aidan and Jen, and I didn't put two and two together. It wasn't, I built a guitar for my son, Aidan. I went, of course that's your son. There's not many people I know with the surname Ray spelled with a W.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes sense. So
yeah, there's not that many. No, he's like he's like the biggest Rush fan who's still quite young. He's totally obsessed with it, and I think he followed you around most of the southern part of the country.
Did, the London gigs and all the South Coast gigs. Yep, and which is South Coast is amazing. We played it a lot last year, and every gig was packed. So there's something about the South Coast is big for Rush, that's for sure. We're well impressed with that. Yeah,
so I'm going to plug a guitar I made, the Rush guitar, for Aidan. So when he was approaching his 21st, which is a few years ago, I said to him, "Oh, do you want me to buy you a Gretsch or something special?" And he went away and he thought about it and he went, "No, I want you to make me the guitar from Distant Early Warning, the video." I'm like, "Oh,
okay, son.
We've got thanks."
No pressure. You've got a week.
So I had to research the hell out of it, and there's only about 2 or 3 photos available of it, and then find out how it is wired. And it was called he named it the Hentel Sportscaster.
That's the one. Is that the red one with the mirror scratch plate?
Yes, yeah.
Lovely. Yeah.
So I made that for his 21st. It took months, and the paint job was 22 coats of paint.
Holy shit! Oh wow, right. So when you make guitars, you do make them from scratch, and you paint the buggers as well. Holy shit, man.
But it's a great guitar. It's a great guitar.
I'd love to see it sometime. Yeah, great. Of course, Godan, Alex Lifeson hooked up with, is it Godan?
Yeah, they've just released it, haven't they?
They brought one out, they call it the Grace model. Isn't that... so is there anything unique in that wiring? I know it's got the humbucker and 2 singles.
Yeah, I think it's...
And it's a 3-way toggle switch, eh? So
that's it. So it's wired probably the same. But it's not quite. If you look at that compared to the actual picture from the early Distant Warning, it's not quite the same. Where mine's much more the same. Although we did change, we didn't put the Floyd Rose in it. The old style Floyd Rose. We put in a Floyd Rose rail tail.
Which is
that? It only goes down, not up, and it's way more stable and easier to set up. But it's a big, it's still a Floyd Rose. It's just a different one.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I hate Floyd Rose. But I love whammy bars. I mean, I'm a huge Holdsworth fan, back in the day. And I mentioned the Gibson SG that I bought on my first grant check. That had already been bastardized. It was a Gibson SG Junior, so just the one humbucker at the bridge, but I had a Kaler on it, a Kaler tremolo on it with a big lock and nut, and a little micro switch, which I think, either coil tapped or it phased half the humbucker. So the sounds I could get out of this SG with one pickup, I've still got upstairs. It's amazing. But I had a Kaler on it, which was that was my first experience of a whammy. I loved it. I've since bought a few with Floyd Roses, and there's always something up with a Floyd. It's just annoying. Just a tiny little bit of movement before it actually makes contact. Oh man, I've got to, I'm talking about the Gibson Lifeson Les Pauls, which come with the Floyd Roses. I've always got to gunk it up with a bit of gaffer tape. I mean, the thousands that these cost, you think there'd be a reliable fucking trem bar, whereas PRS and Music Man, I use Music Man, a John Petrucci JP6 from a function band stuff. The Wilkinson trems are perfect. It's got that rubber sheath which it slides into. Contact is made from the word go. Hello, Mr. Floyd Rose, can you do something like that, please? But saying that, I buckled and I bought the first Godan that Alex did, the Limelight, the white one.
Yep.
With a Vega trem. I don't know if you're aware of that system.
I haven't seen that one, no.
Man, that is, I don't know what's going on. That is just, it's sorcery. I've only played it a couple of times. It's holy shit. I mean, that is a pension guitar. That is still under the bed. I took it out for one gig that was getting filmed, and played Limelight on the Limelight guitar. That was it. But the minute it wasn't until I was gigging it and I was doing the Limelight solo and just doing that big dive bomb. And I just thought, this takes me right back to my SG, my Kaler. You know, it's like, this is what a whammy bar is all about. So if you ever get a chance to try a Vega trem system, I don't know what's going on there. I think I have to take it apart to change the strings. It looks a bit, you know.
Okay.
I'm not looking forward to that, you know. That's what I love about the PRS and the JP6. It's locking tuners. I'm a huge fan of locking tuners. That's all you
save
bloody
a lot of time.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all you need. Yeah, no, the red guitar sounds lovely. I'd love to see it sometime. Yeah,
we'll see if we can figure that out. Right, a couple more lighter questions then. Do you have any pre-show rituals or superstitions?
No superstitions as such. We Owen drinks lots of tea. Jamie tries to do yoga. Well, she does do yoga. She does a lot of stretches. I actually suggested at one point that we should all do that, and I think we all did it once. And then I remember it was actually in Galashiels last year when we were all going to try it again. And I just thought, you know, I'm a big lad. I'm like 58 in a couple of weeks. I thought, no, I'm not going to do anything here that I might pull something, you know, minutes before going on stage. Down with that sort of thing. So yeah, I just tend to. Shut your ears, kids. But I'll have a couple of cigarettes. You know, I only smoke when I'm gigging with these buggers. Honestly, I'm just like, you know, I had to apply for some insurance recently, and I had to admit I was a smoker. You know, I'm not really a smoker, but I do when I'm with these buggers, just to get a bit of me time outside. You know, because they're doing whatever they do in the dress. I like, and I call it my 2-minute coma. I can just like. After the sound check and everything, I just need to sit in a corner. The room can be full. I don't care. I just need to shut my eyes for a minute or two. So it's not a ritual as such, but I think it's just a combination of just being physically knackered. You know, after doing the driving, the setting up, the sound check, and all that mental and physical kind of workout. I just need like 1 minute just to switch off, and I can just go into a coma that's all I need. Just to go into deepest, darkest Peru, then come out again, and then we gig. You know. And then we all do the 3-way fist bump just before we're going.
I've seen the pictures.
That's it. Yeah. That's our usual rituals, yes.
Okay, nearly there. Other than Alex Lifeson, if you could jam with a guitarist, alive or dead, who would it be?
Ooh. I've only fairly recently become a fan of Dream Theater. I'll say fairly recently. I'll say in the last 10 years. They're a band that's ticked all my boxes, but I couldn't eat a whole one for long enough. You know, I just found them kind of soulless. But I've since become appreciative of just their brilliance and their technicalities. But no, there's no point jamming with Petrucci, because what's the point of that? I'm trying to think. That'd be great fun. He seems like a really nice guy. So from getting the crack point of view, and he's into his bourbon and all that sort of thing, that'd be good fun. From a player point of view, I think Alan Holdsworth. I mentioned him earlier, but he was because he was such just off the scale, whatever. And from the same point of view, Robert Fripp. But I think he would be maybe not as, or maybe would be after seeing his recent videos with Toya. I think
I was just going to say that you could take over.
It looks like a good laugh. Yeah. So I would have a pint with him and get the guitars out, but. I don't play as much as I should in the house because I manage the band as well and all the things that go. So I've forever got a guilt trip from not practicing enough. so the chance to jam with somebody would be a rare and welcome thing.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so this is the end. This is been amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're
Tell
welcome,
us what's happening for Moving Pictures next. You've got your gigs lined up for next year.
This year.
Yeah,
I'm still saying next year. We're here already. Yep.
Yeah.
5 already, man. Yep. Well, yeah, we're gearing up to that. We've got a little bit of downtime, but we're starting with a new set. We're doing an R40 style set. This is the R40 being Rush's last ever tour, which they never brought across the water. I was lucky enough to see it twice. I went across to see it in Houston and New Orleans. But you know, anybody can go online and watch it on YouTube or buy the DVD, Blu-ray. And it was a great set. they did a career-spanning retrospective in reverse.
In reverse, yes.
Yeah, so it's a great concept, and so we're doing very, very similar to that. I've actually put a post up recently to say if anybody wants to see a copy of our set list, then and anybody could if they wanted to, just email steve@brun.net, and it's based on their R40 set, but we've tweaked it slightly. And of course, last year, after much persuasion, our Owen is now bringing his violin to the gigs, and we're playing Losing It as a 3-piece. So I'm not saying anything more than that, but it's working very well.
You're not breaking out the kimonos for it.
Well, we did that. We did do that last month. It's an annual thing now. We play on the 21st of December, 2112, in Edinburgh. It's like almost like a homecoming show for us. Last year, 2024, was the second time we did it, and it's a party atmosphere. It's the festive season. It's Rushmas. 2112 was International Rush Day for those of us that do the dates the right way around. And so we got a thing of playing 2112 at 2112 on 2112. We do the countdown. It's like New Year, and so this year last year we took it up a notch. We played the whole suite. So we played the full 2112 suite with kimonos. So it's the fun. We handed out 300 fake moustaches at the door as people came in. So it's just hilarity. So we're doing the same again this year, but this time we're going to play the full album. So we just kind of step it up, and the kimonos might even go for the white spandex. You never know.
Steady on.
I know. No, that's not a family show. You know what I mean? The moose knuckle, or the tarantula's mandible, as I like to call it.
God.
Yeah, so maybe not. So yeah, we're that's the thing. It's serious music, but you've got to have a laugh doing it, and we do. We certainly do. We're 3 completely different characters, myself, Owen, and Jamie. Almost completely different backgrounds, but the Rush has brought us together, and we're all appreciative of each other's musicality. And again, my saving grace. I am. It feels it's kind of true. Alex, the guitarist in a Rush tribute band, is kind of the weakest link. I have to say it, because you're up against Geddy and Neil, and they are just absolute legends. To me, Alex is a legend too. But so I kind of feel as if I've got the easiest job, but I combine that with managing the band. So they're getting their money's worth out of me. Put it that way.
It doesn't look easy.
Exactly. It's hard work, but it is a labour of love. We all absolutely love it. We had a few little teething problems, as you do. Just you throw 3 people in a van for a few days, and if there's no lose for a while, tempers can get frayed, but we've done it often enough now. We're on a happy, even keel at the moment. Touch wood. So we'll stay on the ship for as long as we can. Yep.
Brilliant. So anybody, even if you're not a Rush fan, go see Moving Pictures. So good.
Oh,
so good. It'll blow your mind.
Thanks, man. We are getting those replies from gigs. People that are Rush fans but don't want to do are not into tributes. Maybe a friend will drag them along, and invariably, all we hear is the positive comments, obviously. And our fan base is growing, so we must be doing something right,
Absolutely.
Doing the bigger gigs. We're doing all the academies again this year. We're doing Newcastle City Hall. The Academy group asked us to do that one. So that's, holy shit. We're doing Massey Hall in Toronto in August. Yeah, I know. This is like, if you know Rush, that is the iconic Rush venue. Well, after that, I'm going to look at Red Rocks.
So that means you're flying into YYZ?
We are indeed. Yes, indeedy. The very one. So I've been a few times. There's been a lot of the Rush conventions now over there. Got a lot of good buddies. That's the thing with the Rush world. It's a big Rush family. We know Neil Peart's family, and I organise RUSHfest Scotland as well, which is this May in Glasgow. Moving Pictures are playing that. We're bringing bands over from Brazil and Norway, Rush tribute bands. Alex Lifeson's sisters coming across from that. Neil Peart's brothers coming across for that. So it's not just playing the music; it's a family thing. you know, and we do that for charity. So it's it's not just playing guitar. It's a life.
That's amazing.
So yeah, and I thank my wife for putting up with me during this period. Thank you.
Excellent. Steve Brown, thank you very much.
Thank you, Darren. All the best.
Absolutely amazing talking to you.
All right, we'll see you down the road, mate. Cheers.
Thanks a lot, folks. We'll see you again. Good night. Cheers.